welcome everybody to the chat today. This is Rose Wynn. We're here with my sister-in-law, Stephanie Wynn, and we hope that you have a nice hot beverage with you.
Yes.
We are going to be discussing once again social media.
Yeah, I think a
um,
lot of our stuff's going to kind of always mention social media at some point.
yeah, last time we were talking about motherhood and social media. This time we're probably going to be opening it up to an even broader subject. We're going to be talking about mental health and social media. It's kind of a hot topic right now.
Yes.
Especially when it comes to teenagers and kids, but also how it's affecting the mental health of adults and possibly discussing how to deal with it and
Yeah.
what to do with that information.
Yeah, that's a lot. I like how you said we were now going broader because I feel like we were so broad topic in the last one. And now we're like, no, let's just zoom out even
Yep.
more.
Even more. Let's
Let's
just
make
zoom
it
out even more because like the more we dig into this subject, the more we find out that it goes farther. It
yeah.
goes deeper and it goes farther. And I think one of the things that we was talking about the statistics of how it affects teens in particular and how the the percentage of teens um, rose of teens who experience persistent sadness or hopelessness is up 20% in the last 10 years, as well as the number of teens who seriously consider suicide. And of those girls, the girls are worse with 57% experiencing sadness and hopelessness, up 21% in the last 10 years. And those numbers are terrifying as a woman and as
Yes.
a mother of a girl.
Right. Yeah.
And not just like as a parent in general, yes, but like you start reading those numbers as a
You read
parent
it,
of a
yeah.
girl and
You read
it's
it from a different
horrifying.
perspective. It is horrifying. I do want to back up to what caused us to want to talk about this today, because you mentioned it's a hot topic right now, and this happened a couple weeks ago. We're a little bit late in recording this. Right, Valentine's Day, we said we work at a restaurant. It's kind of crazy.
Yep. Yeah,
Um,
it's been a week.
yeah, still going. We still have
Still going.
a couple more days in that. But anyway, a couple weeks ago, if anybody heard, there was a special hearing, I guess is the correct legal term, in front of Congress with the leaders of these famous social media platforms. Mark Zuckerberg was there from Facebook. The dude from, well, Facebook, Meta, I should say. The dude from TikTok was there. I think Snapchat was there. I can't remember everybody, but for me, if you don't mind, I'm going to start with this and then turn it over to you with the statistics. There was a quote that Zuckerberg said, and that's really what made me mad and made me start researching. So I'm just going to read it. This is from his hearing in front of Congress, or if it's not considered Congress, maybe it's House of Representatives. I'm not sure what.
I don't remember.
Yeah, one of those big
Yeah.
groups.
Government.
The government. So he said, and I quote, "I take this very seriously," he said in his opening remarks. "Mental health is a complex issue, and the existing body of scientific work has not shown a causal link between using social media and young people having worse mental health outcomes." So he is completely defending his company and saying, well, the scientists haven't said there is a connection between using social media and your mental health worsening, specifically in younger people. And that's what the entire hearing was about the effects of social media for younger
Yeah.
teenager families.
And
Yeah, that just really made me a little bit upset, a lot of bit upset that he just hid behind a wall of, well, there's not a lot of studies
yeah.
about this. When, as you're about to go into all the statistics, there are enough studies that show that something needs to be researched and dug into further, and something needs to be done.
Yeah, something's happening.
Something's happening. Yeah.
Something's happening and it's a pretty strong correlation between, and it's not just in kids, it's not just in teenagers. Something is happening with the adults in this country
Oh,
as well.
yes.
And it's a pretty strong correlation between social media use and mental health decline. And I think anyone who has spent a good deal of time on social media has experienced things from the isolation paradox where you feel super connected but you also feel super alone,
Oh, yes.
and to things where you don't even remember the last 20 posts you looked at. You're just scrolling mindlessly and you're
I'm so
spiraling
guilty of
in your
this too.
thoughts.
While you're talking, I will be very transparent. I am guilty of
Yeah.
this.
Oh yeah, no. I doom scroll all the time.
Mhm.
Like it's my favorite thing to do and I catch myself doing it and I'm like I need to stop. It's
We're
not
not sitting
healthy.
here saying we're off the grid and we're not a part of this and y'all should delete all these apps from your phone. I mean,
No,
that
no,
may be a good
absolutely
answer
not.
to the problem, but that's not what we're here about.
Yeah, that's not what we're here. We're here to talk about how social media can what's the word? Can
Infiltrate?
it can magnify typical social effects like the comparison trap, where especially young people are comparing themselves to others and their lives to other lives. And that's a normal like social behavior, but the social media takes it and blows it out of the water.
Yeah,
They're
that
no longer comparing themselves to other kids in their school. You're now comparing yourself to the influencer who has a private jet and flies around the world every other week.
yep.
And that's not healthy. That's
Yes,
not a
because
healthy.
you have this influencer that flies around on this private jet and then they're influencing, say, the teenagers in the other class, like the homeroom period.
Yeah,
I didn't go to school. I don't know
I
what the
didn't either.
called.
We're
Anyway,
homeschoolers.
other people in the school are listening to these influencers, and most likely some of them have the income available in their family to purchase these makeup products or these Stanley cups or these off name brand clothes to be able to be like the influencer. So then another, not, middle class person, whatever,
Right.
another teenager is also being influenced by these influencers, also seeing their friends be able to follow the influencer's path more than they are, and so it's like a double whammy that they're
Yeah.
receiving this peer pressure from.
Yeah. When you and I were growing up, it was just a single location that you were getting that pressure from.
Hmm.
You
And it was
weren't.
hard. It's not like it was easy, it was still there.
It was, yeah, and it's normal, and on a certain level, it's healthy. On a certain
Yep.
level, it's the dose that makes the poison.
Yep.
Always remember that. Like feeling the need to conform to the people around you is part of being a social creature and part of being a complex social creature. That's all normal and healthy to want to grow up and be like your parents or be like the people around you and fit in and be part of a community. But when you're looking at people who are so out of your community, it's not even a joke. And
Mm,
and to top it off, to put the cherry on top, this isn't what their life is like.
yes.
This is just the highlight reel. And
Yes.
I'm sure everyone's heard that said before, but this is not their life. This is not their day to day. They are not happy 24/7.
It's their job. They've what you see isn't the output of their career. Just as much as our career is to prepare food for people,
Hmm.
that's what
Yeah.
we do. That's our job. And it's the same thing. It's their job. They're just doing their job. And if you remember that it's their job to influence you this way, as opposed to welcome into my life and let me show you 100% real life.
Yeah.
Like
Like
that's not what they're doing. They're working.
you're seeing the 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 chef in the kitchen. You're not seeing the part where we come home and
Yes.
throw a can of beans in the microwave. Like
Or my husband eats whole
We don't.
corn out of the can.
Yeah, eating uncooked corn out of the can. Look, everybody's got a rough night. You don't see those parts, and you do when it's your social circle.
Yes.
When it's your social circle, you get to see them have rough days. You
Hmm.
get to see them come to school in dirty shoes. You get to see the interior of their houses. You get to know that their mother smokes cigarettes, or in my case, their father drinks. Like, not that my father did. I had a friend who I learned that. I thought she had the most perfect life, and then I went over to her house and I realized that there was more liquor bottles in the trash can than there should have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, when you're taking your immediate social circle and you're doing those comparisons, you get to see more of those nights where they come home and they throw baked beans in the microwave. they don't they don't cook risotto every night for dinner.
Oh,
Why is it
no.
always risotto?
Oh, it's risotto.
But yeah, like, when it's social media, you don't get to see that. You don't get to see those small imperfect parts of their life. You get to see what they curate, what they what they want you to see.
Right.
Like me putting on makeup this morning because I knew we'd probably be recording.
I wouldn't have this one.
I was like,
Well,
this
I
is
think
not
I'm
what I
right.
look like without makeup on.
I'm kind of running out, so I'm going all natural.
That's not what Stephanie looks like when she does put makeup
No, the redness on my cheeks does go away.
on.
I put makeup on. I
But
don't
it's
like
like,
to look like I'm either breaking out or crying all the time. So
yeah. But it is, you're seeing they have so much control over what you see about their lives that it's an unfair thing to compare yourself to.
I actually really like that. What you just said is they are controlling what they let out.
Yeah.
And so just remember that. Like when you see these beautiful Facebook posts, Instagram, I'm old, y'all. I go to Facebook, TikTok, whatever. They're controlling that. They're literally sitting down, making a highlight reel. And it's, if you look at it as, like I was saying, their job, they're really good at it. They're good at the editing, the highlighting, the recording, the staging. Like they're good at it. Just remember that it's a production,
Yeah.
like a movie. We all go to the movies and want our real Barbie dream house because we just like, oh, this is amazing and I want
Yeah.
this. But there's a sense of us that are like, but it's a movie. It's been edited. There's lighting. There's,
There's a
there's
script.
microphones. I mean, like
Yeah.
you have to have these tools to present in this society. Just remember that it's a production. I guess that's my nugget for the
Yeah.
day. Remember it's a production.
Absolutely.
Do you have any other statistics?
Um I'm looking over it. I think the most disturbing thing is that rise of 20 and 21% in the last 10 years
Yeah.
of just, it's, oh, I'm looking there, and it's really messed up, the fact that remote schooling actually resulted in a spike in abuse and of different kinds in kids. So when 2020 happened
Mm.
and these kids were supposed to stay home, it didn't help.
No.
It was supposed, it should. You should be the safest ever in your own home. You and I were homeschooled.
Hmm.
You and I mean, I think
Love that.
I started homeschooling at 4th grade.
Fifth,
Yeah.
fifth grade.
So I do have some experience with like elementary school memories, but I remember the lunch table and I remember being bullied even in 3rd grade. I remember having my gym clothes put in the shower. Yeah, that happens even in the 3rd grade. And if anybody tells you, well, they're starting to bully each other younger and younger, no, no, they're no.
No,
1st,
it's
2nd, and
always
3rd grade
there.
was awful.
Yeah, because you're
Trust
always,
me.
it's natural, it's human nature to compare yourself, just like
Yeah.
you were saying. And when you're a child and you're a sponge and you're trying to figure out what life is, you're going to look
Mm-hmm.
around those around you, your parents, your grandparents, your aunts, uncles, and then it expands. It's that
Yes.
village community we were
Yeah.
talking about. So kids always look at other kids, and there's always going to be that sense of bullying. I'm better than you, and it's always going to be there. You can't get rid of it. That's
Yeah.
natural human nature.
And when you and I were growing up, when well, especially me, like this, we're talking like 1990 to 1995 that I spent in school
Hmm.
or in communities. If someone was doing something like that, then retaliation was acceptable. Not in the sense that I could go and put their gym clothes in the shower, but if
Right.
I went and told a teacher, they got in trouble.
Yes.
Or if I was getting pushed and physically assaulted on the playground, I could push back. We could get into scuffles on the playground, and it didn't result in either one of us getting suspended from
Suspended.
school.
Yeah.
And it bothers me. People like, well, the bullying's so much gotten so much worse. It was pretty bad. I was 7 and 8.
Yeah.
What I feel like is happening is that there is more of an emphasis on sheltering children from bad things happening to them as opposed to teaching them how to cope with those bad things.
Yes.
And it's okay. We can just gloss over that if you need me
Well,
to. But
no,
it's going to
it's
come,
true.
it's going to
It's
be a big part in what I think and how I'm going to handle it as a parent
yeah.
when it comes to screen time with my child. Is that I don't
Yes.
think removing screens altogether is the answer. And I'm saying that as a person who didn't have a television between the ages of 5 and 6 and 11 and 12. There's a good 6 years there in my life where we did not have
Mhm.
screens.
It's
And
also before cell phones are real popular.
yeah, and that's also before cell phones were a problem. But if I'm thinking about just that whole concept of what happened with me, and I don't know if we're ready for me to wheel into this section of the chat, are we? Because I will just drive it.
No, I say go for it. Yeah,
Okay.
I have one quote, but that's more for the end. So yeah, go for it.
Is that when we did finally get a television in the house, Joy and I both, but me especially, we overused it.
How do you mean?
Like, I was glued to that thing. I could
Oh,
not
that makes
pull
sense.
myself away from it. I wanted to watch everything all the time, 100% of the time. And my parents very quickly learned that if they did not put down regulatory rules for it, it was going to become an addiction. It was going to be a
Mhm.
problem.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's definitely affecting the way I'm handling it as a parent because if you take it away, all you're going to do is encourage overuse once it's introduced.
That can be applied into so many other areas, not
Oh
just.
yes, yes it can. Where meanwhile, if you teach regulation, if you relegate the screen to a tool that we use to
Mhm.
learn or communicate, and you teach regulation with this new tool, then it it's less likely for it to become an addiction.
Yes.
But that goes back to that it's not my job as a parent to shelter or
Okay.
protect my child from the hard stuff. It's
Mhm.
my job as a parent to teach them how to cope with it
Yeah.
because by the time she's 20 years from now, there's going to be whole new sets of technology out there that
That's what I was
she's
going
got to
for.
learn how to cope with and regulate on her own.
Yeah.
And I want to have been there for that first section of this is how you cope with and regulate technology that we do know about. I mean,
Yep.
God knows what's going to be in her life 20 years from now that she's going to have to be teaching me how to use.
Yeah. No. I was as you were talking, I was like, we decided doesn't no. Let me back up because of where we are in time. of course, our children are going to be exposed to technology.
Yeah.
You can't say, oh, well, I'm going to raise up my child like it was, 1850. As much
I
as some
saw
people would like to for
I
certain
saw a
things.
lovely, lovely quote that ties into what you're saying, and it was, "We cannot raise our children the way we were raised because they are not living in the world we were living in."
Yes, exactly. You
Yeah,
hear me going around and joking, I want to raise a 90s kid.
yeah.
And that's mostly that goes to the clothes. I love 90s clothes on kids. And so I'm just like the look, the t-shirt over the long sleeve t-shirt. Like I'm finding these fun nostalgic outfits for my son. And I joke like I'm raising a 90s kid, and it's not what I mean. I don't
Yeah,
mean to treat him like he's being raised in the 90s where you nobody in your house has a cell phone. Where if you want to go online, do you even know what online means? Some of these kids don't get it.
do
Like
you
I'm
remember the sound that the internet makes?
I'm not gonna
I can
raise my
pull it up. We can do a sound clip.
the
I know
techie
what
does not
I
let
know
you
what
do
the internet sounds like.
I'm not gonna raise my son like it was in the 90s. Unfortunately. No, not unfortunately. That's life,
Yeah,
And I'm gonna look at what we have now, just like you're saying, it's a tool, and there's gonna be different tools. Like AI is the future. I mean, we've talked about
VR. Good
VR.
God.
That's the
Virtual
next.
reality scares the crap out of me.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's neat. It's fancy. It's smart. It's
And I
really
remember
cool.
what I was like at 19 with MMOs and never getting off of those. I hate to think what I would have been like if I could have strapped that thing to my head.
I know, right?
I would have never you would no, I would have never surfaced.
Yeah. So I don't know. I really like what you said. Of we're we're raising our children for the future,
Yeah,
basically. And that
absolutely.
involves technology. It involves social media. As much as I want to go and erase all of these apps from my phone, it's not practical because I run a business
Yeah.
and we're starting this podcast, and that is a social aspect.
Mhm.
But regulation,
Yeah.
who I follow, who I look at, who I don't, because I'm regulating myself, my mental health, my needs or desires. What am I looking to get out of social media? Am I literally
Right.
just wanting, for example, Facebook to be my family, just my
Mhm.
family's updates? Or do I want Instagram to just be inspirational? Like, these are just ideas. This is just how I'm looking at it and how
Yeah.
I'm trying to regulate it myself, because it's necessary. Even as adults, we need to
Especially as
regulate.
adults,
Yes,
because if
especially.
you can't regulate it yourself, I mean, how can you tell someone else how to do it?
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, no, I don't believe in that though.
I know, because yeah, that's
Yeah,
a different podcast.
but yeah,
Yeah.
it's it's a wild, wild thing. It's a it's part of that. Here we are in a world, especially in the US, specifically in the US, in a world where there's a 500-to-1 ratio of counselors to students in schools, where students don't feel comfortable taking body image issues or
Mhm.
instances of assault or molestation to their teachers or even their parents, because sometimes those are the people enacting it. That's not a new problem necessarily, but the lack of safe havens, the more we spread kids out, the more we open up their world, the more access other people have to them, the more and bigger and more secure their safe haven needs to be.
Yeah.
And they don't have that. They don't have a porch light to come on.
Mhm.
Like, and that's terrifying to me. I think that's probably the scariest part is that I know my daughter is going to have a porch light, a metaphysical porch light to
Hmm.
come on, that she knows, okay, I need to go home, I need to talk to my mom, I need to talk to my dad. But the sheer number of children who don't have that, and they're being exposed constantly to a world where they're talking to strangers all the time.
Yeah.
They're listening to strangers
Yep. Stranger
all
danger
the
is
time. And
not
when I say
going.
stranger, I mean, like, just last night we were watching a video on Discord cults that are forming on Discord channels. And I'm just like,
And it's anonymous.
and it's anonymous. You don't know who these people are. And do I think I think that's slightly more terrifying than being, at least I would know who my child is talking to if she starts to act strange or seems a little bit off when she comes home. I could like start circling the people I know she hangs out with. I
Mhm.
don't know who she's going to be hanging out with anymore.
Because
And
of
that to
the world we
me,
live in.
as a childhood victim, that scares the crap out of me.
And
There's no houses with doors I can go knocking on going, what the fuck did you do to my child?
fair. I mean, that's totally fair. And that is the downside, one, just one of the downsides of technology. And
Yeah.
it's an unfortunate downside because technology has given this world so much. We've learned so much more about X, Y, and Z. You could give all of the fancy terms, but it's not a bad thing. It's the natural part of where our society is going. But because it's so quote great, it has such negative. It's like the better something is, the bigger
Yeah.
something is, the farther you have to fall. One of those
Oh yeah.
metaphor type things.
Absolutely.
But being
As
knowledgeable as an adult, as a parent, even if you're not a parent, as an adult, you're going to be around other people. Being knowledgeable of what it can and can't do. No, not that, not that. What it can do and what it's capable of doing
yeah.
is important. As just for yourself, just as
Yeah, for your own mental health.
yeah.
Don't you know, I have in my cart a little red flag to start waving
Oh,
when we used to get into these subjects.
oh.
But it's like, don't don't hang around with people that make you uncomfortable. No is a full sentence. And these are, it saddens me that women our age are having to learn these lessons. But I'm also extremely proud of the generation behind us and the generation behind them that are marching on these things and are probably louder than any other generation before them. That that no is a full sentence, that
Mhm.
this is wrong, that you're making me uncomfortable. Like, I know it's scary to be a girl in this country and in any country, but I don't know how to express to younger women how impressed I am that their generations are taking such a public stand on this. Because when I was 14, 15, and 16, this was not something you discussed ever. Not to your mother, not to your doctor. No, this was very very hush hush. This was whispered in circles about, and it was almost always, the blame was, it was almost always asked, what was she wearing, what was she doing, why was she alone with him. Like, 20 years, 30 years makes such a massive difference on these fronts. And I am so proud of these younger generations for being so loud about it.
Mhm.
And here you are on the precipice of technology that is going to make that even scarier and make you even more vulnerable. to those kinds of predators. And I think it's even more important that we get louder and then it become even more acceptable to say, this happened to me and he did it, or
Mhm.
this happened to me and she did it. And that goes for both genders because there's predators on both sides of the
Both sides,
fence.
yes, absolutely. And it's as you're talking about that, I'm taken back to when you had to listen to the noise of the internet. At least in my house, and I've shared this with you guys, we were scared to go on any website because viruses. You didn't know the dawn of the computer age
Yeah,
was
the wild, wild west of
the
the internet.
wild, wild west web. Um, and I think that kind of instilled in me a good um,
Habits,
habits, a good this whatever this word is, um,
distance.
a natural distance to something unknown,
Yeah.
as opposed to a lot of these the generation after us. If it's on the internet, it's believable.
Hmm.
And I'm glad I still have that filter of, I read this on Facebook, don't believe it, and then I'll say what I read. You know, it's
And
just
then I'll
like
go Google
anything,
it because now I want to know.
and then I'll look into it further. But everything's so face value now, and I think that that's one good thing that being around for the beginning of the computers,
Yeah.
um, at least in me, has instilled, because, like you're saying, it wasn't so much talked about, but it also did give me a good filter.
The, as technology improves, there is less and less of physical connection, and there's less
Mm,
and less of a physical community. And I can't express the importance of a physical community and physical connection with people. There's a marked and researched difference between how your brain responds to a Zoom call and how your brain responds when you see that person in person and you can smell them and feel them. And there is a marked spike in the positive brain chemicals in seeing somebody in person and sitting across the table with them and engaging in community bonding activities in person. And those are eating together, singing together, playing together. Um, those are activities that are critical in bonding with people, even if you don't talk,
yeah.
even if there's no communication. Just sitting down at a table and eating with somebody creates a bond between the two of you, and it stimulates oxytocin between the two of you. And it's very, very important that while here we have technology expanding and you feel like your community is expanding and it's getting bigger, that
Hmm.
you understand that without a physical connection, without that physical contact, your community is actually getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And that's what leads to that isolation paradox. You aren't producing oxytocin talking to somebody through a screen. You aren't creating that very, very important bonding chemical talking to somebody through a screen. And don't
Hmm.
get me wrong, I love talking to you through a screen.
It works
But
for our lives to do this.
given the choice between this and sitting down in your living room or in my living room with an
Mhm.
actual cup of tea with you, I would choose the latter every time
Yeah,
because that is a
absolutely.
completely different
It
experience.
is. It really is. Like the yeah.
Yeah.
There's a word I can't think of it.
It's so
The
important.
energy. The energy
Yeah,
is different. The connection. Like,
actually happens.
yes, it
Yeah.
does. Hmm.
And we can't pretend as we move forward with technology and social media that it is in any way a substitute
Oh
of any
yes.
form with actual physical connection.
Hmm. And even just keeping up with, oh, well, my family's this, or my brother did that, my aunt did this. Like, yeah, that keeps me updated,
but it
But when
doesn't
I
keep you
go see
connected.
them in person, I'm still like, so what have you done since the last time I saw you 2 years ago or
Yeah.
whatever? Like, I'm still like, oh, I saw that you went to such and such. How was that? Like, just knowing that they went is not enough.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun to
No.
see the pictures. I love that's for me personally. I love Facebook for that. That's why I joined back when it came out. That's what I love about it is because my family's spread out over the country. Not really. They're not all in this town. They're in different states, and so that's helpful, and I love that. But whenever I see them, I'm still like, oh, so how's this? How was that? Like, give me more information. I want to connect with you on this. Like, I don't feel connected just because I saw a picture of you on the
Right.
beach doesn't mean that I know everything or I feel a part of the story
Yeah.
type of deal.
Absolutely.
I did. I have a statistic.
Ooh.
Surprise. I will say I may get the number wrong. I heard this from another podcast, so I don't know if there's an actual scientific study, but I think there is. But this guy was saying that the human mind is only really capable of 100 around 150 relationships. Like knowing something about the person and that give and take, not the 4,000 friends you have on Instagram. Those are not relationships. Like the human mind, that from a mind standpoint, does that sound familiar to you?
So it looks like they were talking about Dunbar's number.
Yes, that's it.
And he was using the average human brain size and extrapolating from results of primates. He proposed that humans can comfortably maintain 150 stable relationships.
Okay.
And that is at one time. So that is actually that's quite sizable.
That's what I thought. I did think it was
Yeah,
quite sizable,
that's
but
quite sizable.
it's still not the 4,000 friends you have on Instagram.
No, it's still not. Yeah.
Still
And
not.
it's not, 10,000 followers, which I would love to have. Don't get me
Hit that
wrong.
like button.
But it's he's that like like he's saying you can only have so many stable connected relationships.
And that's that
Like that's a
community.
limited number of
It's your
people.
village, it's your community. And
Hmm.
I think what he then went on to say, I believe this was a video that I was watching about ancient civilization, and he gave the example of like once a group, a tribe of people got more than 200-300 people, it was like we can't even function. There's too many of us.
And they would split
So
apart.
they would split and then they would grow and they would split and they would grow. Like that's natural human connectivity is
Hmm.
the village, the communal. And if you have a community of 4,000 people, you're not going to get what you need. They're not going to get what they need. Yeah.
And that's evident in world governments, but that's a completely different rant. The bigger the country is, the more fucked up it is.
Who'd have thought?
Food for thought.
But yeah, I don't know. It just being able to look at it from that viewpoint, it makes you um, appreciate relationship
Yeah,
as
absolutely.
opposed to the social media. And I do want to kind of bring this back around to our original point of social media versus mental health. I think
Yeah.
we very well branched off on social media.
Yeah.
But can you bring it back to
Well, yeah,
mental
because
health?
the whole social aspect of social media is the mental health aspect. That if you're not getting that connection, if you're not getting, as we say here in the South, fed when you're on there,
Mhm.
if you're not feeling full and satisfied, then it's time to change that social media diet. It's time to look at it and be very critical of it.
Yeah.
If you're not getting connection, if you're not even getting updated on things you want to be
Oh,
updated on,
yes. Algorithm.
yeah, then it's time to put it down for a couple days and seriously think about how you're using it as a tool, or is it using you?
Yeah. I think
That's
that's great.
yeah,
And I
and
know that
that's
there are people out there that can manage 4,000 friends on Instagram, and that's their personality. They're very extrovert. They're able to have some sort of communication, and they like the constant updates. And that's wonderful. You know you, and you know that that's okay for your
yeah.
mental health. That is, it's not that everybody has the same bar. It's not like, oh, if you have over 200 friends, that's too many on Facebook. Like, no, it is still individual. You know, some
Yeah,
people
I mean,
thrive on that and some people don't.
yeah, but it's also not possible to maintain
No,
relationships with 4,000 people.
right. You may like to
There's
get the updates of 4,000 different
1,000
people.
people. Yeah, absolutely.
Just
My
know that,
husband's one of those people. He'll be talking about people I don't know who you're talking
so in that
about, but
case,
okay.
he knows that that constant inflow of updates on his friends is helpful
Yeah.
to him. One, he's a bartender, so it helps his career to be able to have all this quip and this information.
Hmm.
Two, it's also his personality. He
Yeah.
loves engaging and knowing something, even if
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
big. He loves being able to connect. Like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like
Yeah.
that's just it. It helps him, and
Yeah.
I think he's a great example of how
He
people
is.
are different and how social media affects mental health differently in people. So look at yourself. Don't look at someone else. Don't look at don't look at me and try to follow my guide to social media because that's how I need it to work. And I'm still working on it. I'm still having to, like you're saying, put it down for a few days. I put Instagram down for a month because I saw a post I didn't like. It freaked me out and it was not good for my mental health. And my postpartum was immediately triggered and I had a really bad week. And I was like, this is not mentally helpful for me. And so I'm having to go through and fix my Instagram
Yeah.
for
I
that
had to
reason.
put Facebook down for 3 years
Yeah.
because it was causing problems with my chronic mental illness. And I just I didn't turn off my account or anything like that so people could still message me if they wanted to reach out in person, but I put that app down and I did not pick it back up for several
Yeah.
years
You didn't.
because it
Mhm.
just was not, it wasn't beneficial to me. It wasn't feeding me. I wasn't getting anything from it. It was
Yeah.
just taking and taking and taking and taking.
Mhm.
And yeah, you can have a toxic relationship with your phone.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah, it needs to be a two-way street. Anything you use in technology wise needs to give you as much as you give it.
Exactly. And that's a great way to look at it. It's, we're not saying that your phone is, you know, breathing and a living organism. It's a tool.
Yeah.
Um, and use it,
Hmm.
sharpen it, utilize it, you know, keep it ready to go, you know, however you want to look at how tools apply to your life, but you control it.
Yeah.
Just like if you know, have a pocket knife that you use regularly to open boxes. I'm thinking about my dad. I just gave him his pocket knife back yesterday. And he was like, "Do you have my pocket knife back?" Because he uses it. So he's in control. So when you have your phone and your social media and your Instagrams, filter it through what your mental health needs
Yeah.
because you can control it. Oh, I just got a notification from XYZ and I have to go see their post. No, you don't, unless you want to. That's
Yeah.
fine. If you want to, that's totally fine. But let you make that decision.
Yeah.
Don't let the phone make that decision for you.
The same goes for text messages.
Yes. Oh God, don't get me
I
started.
mean, you and I grew up in an era where you could not get a hold of everyone all the time.
So, well, I called their home line, and they didn't answer. And I know they're driving probably, so I'm gonna have to wait 45 minutes for them to show up.
Yeah. Yeah. Or I left a voicemail. I don't know how often they check it.
Yeah,
That's a thing.
right.
Boy, like yeah, like the phone rang 11 times, so I hung up. Did they even have voicemail?
Right. Well, let me know. They do have a cell phone. Let's try that. Oh, I call them and I'm getting the beeping busy noise. They must be online.
Yes, yes. So, when you
You
do
can only
get
do
those texts,
one.
yeah, when you do, well, first of all, when you send a
Oh,
text
my chicken.
message, don't get, if you're getting anxious because they're not getting back to you right away, it's time to put
Oh,
the phone down and walk away.
yeah.
It's time to take a deep breath. Inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth, count to 10,
Mhm.
and remember that, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you would not you would not get an immediate answer unless you went over to their house and knocked on the door.
And I struggle that I'm so glad you brought this up because I struggle with I don't like to immediately respond to text
Mhm.
messages, emails, phone calls, whatever. It's an anxiety thing. I don't like talking on the phone. The fact that I'm videoing you makes you very special because I don't like it. It's just it raises my heart rate. Like my back's a little sweaty right now. Just naturally, I'm getting better. But when I get a text message, I don't like to respond right away for
Mhm.
a variety of reasons that we can go into in other podcasts that we want to talk about anxiety and whatnot. But it might be an hour. It might be till I get home. I might actually treat it like I'm going to answer that when I get home, even though I
Yeah,
have my phone on me. I'm going to answer it when I get home because then I'm done with work. I'm in my space and I'm ready to do my tasks. Because
yeah.
sometimes you have to focus on work. It's actually
And,
a good thing to
I'm over
do.
here like, if I get a text message from somebody I'm going to see later that day, there is a 50-50 chance I'm not going to answer that text message. I'm just going to answer it
Yeah,
when I see you later that day. I'm going to be like, "Oh yeah, this message you sent me."
yeah. What was that about? But the backlash I get from that, not from you,
It's wild.
it's
It's
insane.
wild.
Family. I'm like, I saw it. It was not life threatening. It was not an emergency. You did not need to know something right then and there. So I'm gonna wait till it's um, words until it's
Wait till it's,
a better time for me.
yeah,
You're asking me or telling me something that does not. I am not at your beck and call.
right.
It's because you text message me, you call me.
Speaking of which,
Is somebody calling you?
it is the work one though, so I'm gonna check it real
Okay,
quick.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's just I'm not at the beck and call of the phone.
Yeah,
I am a smart person and can filter if it's an emergency or not. If
yeah,
because you can now see, you can preview all the messages, which I love that
yeah.
because it helps me filter. Is this something I need to change my focus on and
Hmm.
interrupt my flow to answer? And sometimes the answer is yes. Sometimes I
Yeah.
want the break. I'm like, oh, good, I needed a mental break. Let me
Let
talk
me
to
go.
so and so
Let me
about
go check my Instagram. Let me go see what this
yeah.
Facebook message is.
And
What is
that's
this? What is this new video on YouTube that just popped up?
exactly
I'm about to eat lunch. Is this something I can watch while I eat? Like, yeah, but like you were saying, you
in
control
control.
when you pick it up.
Yep.
You control when you answer it.
Yep.
And that's really really important to remember when your phone vibrates.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Because it causes the social, even without social media, like if we're just talking phones, that also can cause mental health issues.
Oh yeah.
Having phone on you all the time when before it was just a home phone or a piece of mail, maybe an email if your parents let you have an email.
I had to take my smartwatch off recently just because Evie's going through a sleep regression.
Hmm.
Like, my baby is going through a sleep regression, and we're both experiencing a lot more stress and anxiety, and I have to take my smartwatch off. I cannot have that thing on my wrist vibrating randomly throughout the day. That will give
Yeah.
me a fucking panic attack.
I've
That
had
will
to
give me a panic attack to have that thing just randomly vibrate when I'm already overstimulated and stressed out. So it's been off my wrist for about a week, and it's probably going to stay off my wrist until everything calms back
yep.
down.
I have a similar thing when Max was born. It started with I just kept scratching his head with the back
Oh,
of the buckle,
yeah.
but and then the light would wake him up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it started off as a practical thing, but then very quickly turned into I'm like I don't need to be knowing all of this
Yep.
stuff right
I
now.
don't need this
Yeah,
input right
and
now.
even
I
now
have
I
far
just
more important things to do.
even now I wear it at work so that if grandma has a question, I then get notified.
Yeah.
That's really why I use it. And some days I still forget. I think it's dead and I need to charge it. But yeah,
But yeah,
do
remember
what works for you.
my
Do
yeah, my true takeaway that from this is you control it. It's a tool. You decide when it gets used and when it doesn't, and you need always keep that in mind
yes.
when you're dealing with any form of technology, but especially social media.
Yep. Are you ready for my quote?
I am.
End quote. All right. So this is from a musician that our family really loves, Amigo the Devil. Um, Wonderful guitarist, beautiful singer. Highly suggest him if you like that type of bluesy, moderny, folksy music. And then love
Uh, m-
is
Murder Folk, I think is the
yeah. There you
yeah,
go.
I think is the official yeah
Genre. There's so many.
genre.
Um. Anyway, so this is a letter that he wrote and posted on his website just as a hey, this is who I am and I'm not hiding. And so I'm just going to write letters to my I don't even it's not really like a letter to his fans. It's a blog. Anybody that remembers blogs.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is what he said and it was perfectly on point with this podcast. He says, "I struggle with social media a lot. Personally, I despise it and feel like it's stole most of what made us human. Sure, it connected us globally and allowed for immediate information to be delivered, but I don't know if I believe that it is a positive perk. I feel like we've traded empathy and patience for split-second gratification and reactive auto responses. The same flailing words and ideas stuck to thoughts like mold on a sandwich." And I
Very poetic.
very, very poetic, but it just ties everything together. Like, yes, it's good, but because it's so good, it comes with
So bad.
so
Yeah.
bad. And yeah, I just thought that was really, really beautiful way to look at it as those auto quick responses are not empathy. I will say that. I don't believe hearting someone's post, which I do all the time, is any form of empathy. It's more of, for me, it's more of a, I see what you're going through. I
Hmm.
know what you're going through. I recognize what you're going through. But
Yeah.
it's not empathy because you're not in person or on the
Hmm.
phone. You're not talking with them and giving feelings. So
Yeah.
a heart on a post to me is I agree is not empathy.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
anything else you want to add?
I think I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good. I think
Well,
Evie's calling it.
I think Evie's calling it. Yeah. My monitor hasn't beeped. So fingers crossed. So thanks everybody for joining us on the Purring Pot today. We're excited to continue on this venture, trying to be as regular as possible as life allows. Um, we are currently on Spotify and YouTube um, at the Purring Pot. You can also check us out on Instagram and Facebook. You can monitor TikTok. We'll get there eventually, but
Yeah.
our handle on everything is the Purring Pot. And on that note, thank you guys so much for joining us, and have a
Absolutely.
wonderful.
If y'all have any questions or comments, or if you have anything to add to the conversation, please do.
Yes, please comment below. We will read all the comments. You can also message us on Instagram or Facebook. Um, Again, at the Purring Pot. So have a good one.